Come now, Bobby. Hey, come on. All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday of our first week. Hopefully, as the week has progressed, things have made a little bit more sense in terms of how the course will be run. But let me know if you ever have any questions. First up, I just want to check and verify that wherever you are watching from, you can both see and hear me as you should.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Now, today's discussion is on chapter 2, logical puzzles, which that's not really the heading that we are focusing on today, more the introduction before we get to the actual puzzles. And when I look at the schedule, I see that I also scheduled 2 days for this, which might be overkill. And that just means that we have more than enough time to ask questions, do whatever we need to do. There is no need to rush at all. So before we get to our actual puzzle examples later on next week, where we will be using deductive reasoning, it'll become more elaborate than the three-part rain and grass example. So it becomes very important to understand the basic structure of deductive reasoning first and really think carefully about statements when we make them as part of a bigger argument. That means that when I read a statement, I want to clearly understand and critically think about what it is saying. And when I am making statements in my argument while solving these puzzles, I want to say things exactly as I mean them. I never want to have something where the meaning can be vague and I kind of know what I'm trying to say, but I'm not really getting it across perfectly. We want to avoid those things when we form our logical arguments. It's very important to uh, choose words carefully. An example of that, where it's sort of used against me in a question, words can be used very carefully to create confusion as well. Now, this exercise 2.1 is just for fun. I won't spoil the answer for you, just a little riddle to illustrate how careful selection of words can lead the reader to confusion. Let's read it together and you can think about what is happening. Three people pay $30 to stay at a hotel, each person contributing $10. There are three of them. After they go up to their rooms, the hotel manager sends the bellboy back to return $5 as a discount. However, on the way, the bellboy decides to give each person $1 and keep the other two for himself as commission. So he gave each person a dollar. So each person actually paid $9 for the hotel then, because from their 10 they got $1 back for the room. And with the $2 that the bellboy has, That makes $29. 3 times 9 is 27. The other $2, 29. Where is the missing dollar? Now, many people freak out like, oh no, I don't know how to do these in a test or anything. This is not a test question. It's just a little riddle style question to illustrate how wording can work for me and against me if not carefully selected. Now, I don't want to ruin it for you. There are very few of these very nice little riddles that create confusion on purpose by just saying things in a specific way. I'll leave you to think about it for a little bit. Maybe tonight, when you can't sleep, keeps you up at night. And then, of course, we can discuss it in a Q&A session if it really bothers you. But it shows how there can't be a dollar missing. All the money is there somewhere. Yet 29 versus 30, that doesn't sound right. So what is happening there? So when I form an argument while I'm solving some future puzzle, I want to say things in a clear way to mean exactly what I say. And when I have a discussion with someone else in a logical way, I want that person to say things exactly as they intend and not have anything have a double meaning or a vague meaning or anything. That creates a whole bunch of confusion. So we have to start with what we call statements. Now, I've used this word before. I'll emphasize that we are talking about logical statements. And unfortunately, our English language is a little bit messy sometimes because it developed with the idea that you have many sentences in a conversation to explain what you mean. If something's a little vague, the person can respond, "What do you mean?" And then I can elaborate and try and say it in a different way and so on. On paper, when I'm not there to add to it or elaborate, I have to be limiting myself to sentences that are clear and precise. And a statement is simply a sentence that is either true or false. And that means not both. So when I'm only interested in sentences that can be evaluated as either true or false. Can't be both, can't be neither, can't be weird. Are there then sentences that aren't all sentences like this though? Aren't all sentences true or false? Well, of course, you get basic sentences like questions and things like that that um, don't fall into this category, of course. No things like questions and things like that, right? Those are sentences, but they do not have a true or false nature to them, so no statements there. If I think about the following example, this sentence is false. That's a sentence. What is its what we call truth value? Can it be true? So let's look at this sentence. Is it true? I can't write apparently. Can the sentence be true? What do you think? Keeping in mind that we have a ton of time for this, and built into that time is the discussion aspect, the conversation about these topics to clarify it in your mind and better understand it. And for that to work, it has to be a two-way discussion. So this is my sentence.
I'm going to
Can
say it's false.
Well, to be, first of all, I want to decide, is it a statement? Is it something that, is it the kind of sentence that I'm interested in using, or should
Yes.
these
Yes.
things be avoided? To be a sentence that we are okay with, it has to result in either true or false. That's what we call a statement. Anything that doesn't work like that, we have to ignore those kinds of sentences. So, can this be a statement? Well, that would mean it's either true or it's false. It doesn't matter which one it is. It has to be one of these two to be a valid logical statement. So now let's see here. Let's do this one. Can this sentence be true? Well, if this sentence is evaluated as true, then what it says is true, is happening. But it says it's false. So if I claim that this statement, oh, this sentence rather, is true, that means what it's saying is true, but then it's false. So it can't be true and false at the same time. It's contradicting itself. So that's a no. So it can't be a true sentence because it's contradicting itself. So the only other option is that it is false. That means that whatever it's saying is not true. It's lying, whatever it's saying, if I claim that it's false. So the opposite has to be the case. The opposite of what it's saying is that it's true. So if I try and evaluate if this sentence can be false, then the opposite has to be true, which means it's actually true. And that can't happen either because it can't be false and true at the same time. So things like this, I'll call it a self-contradicting sentence. And unfortunately, these things can always be constructed as a sort of special case. It doesn't really take away from our logical reasoning. We just can't deal with sentences like this. That it's true. If it's true, then it's false. And if it's false, then it's true. And it always contradicts itself, regardless of which case I hope it falls in. So it's both or it's nothing. And it just, the whole thing sort of explodes when I try to work with sentences like this. It's just all kinds of bad. And it's not a statement that I am interested in. It's not a logical statement because it cannot be evaluated as either true, period, or false, period. It has to be one of the two. It can't be a mix or sort of contradicting itself or it's all kinds of badness is happening there. Now, of course, the more I think about sentences like this, the weirder it gets and it starts to mess with my head a little bit. It's true and it's false, and it's false and it's true, and it's everything and it's nothing. Those things always sort of happen on the fringe of my logical system, but it doesn't mean that um, everything falls apart. We just can't work with things like that. There's another story that's also written in the book that also messes with my head a little bit if I think about it too much. You have this Indiana Jones character. Now, this is, of course, an extremely, I'll give him a hat. There we go. That was Indiana Jones character. And he's in the jungle somewhere, and he comes across a huge statue, maybe a mean face on the statue. And for the mouth of the statue, there is a hole in that you can sort of look into. It's a little dark. You see, there's a hole for the mouth. And there's written on the statue, he deciphers what the writing means, and it says that if you put your hand in the hole and you speak the truth, then you'll be able to take your hand out. But if you put your hand in the hole and you tell a lie, then you will never be able to take your hand out, or you won't be able to take your hand out. So he thinks about it a little bit. He puts his hand in and he says, I'll never be able to take my hand out. What happens? Well, if it's true what he says, then he should be able to take his hand out. But he said he'll never be able to take his hand out. And if he's lying when he says, I'll never be able to take my hand out, then he should be stuck. But then the opposite is true, which means he should be able to take his hand out. So again, you get this paradox, the self contradicting kinds of sentences that appear to be statements, but they're not logically, let's say, workable. We can't use them in a logical argument because they contradict themselves. And they're interesting to think about, but quite useless and dangerous to actually use. All right. So it's good to be aware of such things in order to avoid them. And when I make a statement, when I say anything in my argument, I have to make sure that whatever I'm saying is clear, either true or false. And that is it. I don't want wishy-washy, weird sentences to just create confusion because it's not good for myself to follow my own argument, and it's not good in trying to explain my argument or convince someone else. All right. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. These things unfortunately happen or sort of on the fringes of this topic, and we won't delve into it much more. Now we are taking a very informal approach to logical reasoning and statements and things like that because we don't need anything fancier. And when you get too technical, these things sort of look scary and they take away, they distract from the important aspect for us. So the way we are going to practice logical statements and evaluate them and think about what we're saying and how we're saying it, and when we read something, what's the meaning of it, and sort of critically think about things a little bit more than just blurting them out, is by way of the negation. It just gives me a way to practice some sentences, some concepts, some statements, and thinking about them. So I have a statement. Remember, that's now always sentences that can be evaluated as true or false. The negation of a statement is another statement, sort of paired with it, and it has the opposite truth value to the given statement. So, in a sense, the opposite statement. Now, I can look at my exercises to help me practice a little bit. So, we are going to start with exercise 2.2. Remember, the exercises in the book, they're like our examples. They don't have answers in the book. We are discussing them. And it's important for you to understand these exercises perfectly, not necessarily in real time, maybe after the fact, but you have to have enough information and ask enough questions, take notes or whatever, so that when you review eventually, it will make sense in the end. Doesn't have to make sense right away every time. So we have we have different kinds of statements. We have a simple kind of statement, like number one, I'm looking at a book. The statement is, this book has 500 pages, whatever the book is, right? That's true or false. I don't know the specifics of the book. It could be true, it could be false, but it is a valid statement in that it either has 500 pages or it doesn't. This is either true or false, so it is a valid statement. The negation is then the opposite, which is simply this book does not have 500 pages. The statement is claiming something, the given statement is claiming something very specific, that the book has 500 pages. I have to just be aware to not ever think about truth as good and false as bad. It just is. It doesn't matter. There's no good or bad. Whether it's true or false, it doesn't matter. The opposite of the book having 500 pages is then obviously not having 500 pages. So usually no one really worries about this. This sounds very intuitive. Everything's great. The uh, the let's say given statement, when paired with its negation, together they have to cover everything that's possible in terms of uh, true and false. So if the given statement is true, that means the negation has to be false. If the given statement, I don't know what book we're looking at, right? The given statement could be false. Then the negation has to be true. They can't both be true. I'll say here, no overlap in the truth values. They can't both be true. They can't both be false for some situations. They're sort of exclusive to each other, but together they cover everything. The book has 500 pages or it doesn't. There's nothing else that could possibly happen. Is everyone happy with the concept of the negation so far? We are, I think, going much faster than we need to. The schedule says Monday we're doing the same section, so there is no rush whatsoever. It's important to start on a firm footing, so I give enough time uh, to to have this discussion in a proper way. Okay. Now, the unfortunate situation is that some statements, still valid logical statements, um, are perhaps a little bit more complicated. Now, we're not going to go crazy with it. We're just sort of taking one step further in terms of the complexity of the statement. So let's look at the number two statement. I'm not going to rewrite it because I show it on the screen. I can even zoom in. That's a lot of zooming. That's okay. So you can see here, number two, the statement is all students like hamburgers. Now, when I think about how many students can like burgers, it's not 500 or not. There's a whole range of students, ranging from 0 to all possible students and anything in between. So the statement and its negation, it's a little bit more complicated. Let's have a little diagram. If I talk about students liking burgers, then it could range from none, no students like burgers, over here, maybe one liking and everyone else not liking, more liking it, but still a mix, all the way to absolutely all students liking burgers. So there, when I think about it practically, the reality is that there could be a whole bunch of combinations for what could actually happen. Okay. My given statement is only going to be true if in reality what's happening is absolutely all students like burgers. So my given statement is true for this black dot only. That means I now have the option to phrase my negation statement. That's what I'm trying to come up with, right? I'm trying to write down the negation that is paired with this given statement. And I can phrase it how I want. I just have to make sure, and there are options for how to phrase it, I just have to make sure that the negation, when paired with the given statement, has no overlap, so they can't both be true or both be false at the same time, yet they cover everything. Cover, oop, that was ugly, I'm sorry. cover all possibilities, meaning that regardless of what happens in practice, that has to fall into either the given statement or the negation. So if I now attempt the negation, I'm going to use a color here. Come on, pink. There we go, pink. This is now my negation attempt. Very often, if you just sort of chat with people or elementary school kids or anyone, and you ask them, what is the opposite of all students like burgers? A lot, the majority will say, no students like burgers. And the tendency when I think about opposite is to flip it around to the other side over here. And yes, certainly when no students like burgers in reality, my negation has to be true in that case, for sure, because it's not in the black dot. The given statement is certainly not true when it's the case that no one likes burgers. Then my given statement is false, for sure. So my negation has to be true. However, in a situation like this, there's a ton of stuff in between that could be happening. What if it's 50-50? What if it's 50-50? Half of the students like burgers, half of the students don't. Is my given statement true? Let's say here 50-50. Let's suppose that's happening. Is the given statement true? Remember the given statement? All students like burgers. In this 50-50 case, is the given statement true? That's my question to you. I'm not sure everyone understands the definition of discussion. It's sort of a back and forth where I say stuff, you say stuff, I say stuff, you say stuff. So I said, let's look at 50-50. Is the given statement true? And now it's your turn.
Yeah, 50-50, the given statement would be true because that's still some, right?
1 second. So now, this is why we're doing it. Because now we want to be extra aware of what statements are saying, whether I read them or write them, and what they're not saying. The given statement is saying all students like burgers. All. Now I
Oh,
go
my
and
mistake.
survey students. That's all good. I'm glad when people say things that are just a little off, maybe on purpose, just to check everyone, because it helps that discussion. Now I go and survey students and I see, oh, it's a split, 50-50. Some like, some don't like. The given statement was very extreme and said all students like burgers. The given statement is not true because it's 50-50. Some like it, some don't. Is my attempted pink negation here, no students like burgers, is that true for the 50-50 case?
No, the negation isn't true. The correct negation would be not
Well, 1 second,
all students
one
like
thing at a
burgers.
time, one thing at a time. I'm not looking for the right answer. I'm understanding why this attempt is not right. It's not that
Sure,
it's
sure.
wrong, it's just not complete. But if you talk to people and just sort of ask them these kinds of questions, and you use the concept of opposite, most of them are going to say this no student like burgers. That's the opposite. The problem now is that between the two, given statement and my pink attempt, everything has to be covered. So any actual situation that's happening has to be true in one of these statements. It's not true in the given in the 50-50 case. It's not true in my attempt. So then where is it? That means my negation attempt is not complete. I went to the other extreme and I miss all the possibilities in the middle. All the possibilities in the middle that are not covered by the given statement. I have to phrase my negation so that it covers, it's true when any of those things happen. Because any situation has to be true in one of these two statements. The given statement is done. I can't change it. So I have to phrase my negation carefully to cover absolutely everything else. And that is the opposite. The opposite is everything else, not the other extreme. But my intuitive understanding of opposite doesn't always fall in line with this. In logical arguments, opposite means everything else. There is nothing missing. I can't jump to the other extreme. So, unfortunately, not a big deal. I have to update my negation. But it's sometimes very important to make a mistake, if on purpose, to understand what to avoid in the future. So now I do have options. Yes, you can say not all students like burgers. There's always someone. There's someone right now thinking, can I just put a not in front of this and everything's solved? Yeah, you can in this case. But in some sentences, in some statements, it sounds really strange and a little confusing to just put a not in front of everything. It's just not how we speak. So we want to be able to say it in different ways to sort of sound good in all situations, grammatically correct. So other ways is certainly correct because I just want to step away from this black dot and then the negation has to cover all of it. But other words we could use is we could say at least one student does not like burgers. That would also be correct because I need to make sure my negation is true for anything in this pink range. So if I find one or more students that don't like burgers, then I've stepped away from the black dot and I'm somewhere in the pink because at least one means one or more. You can, of course, say one or more. There's no stopping in the more aspect. It could go all the way to everyone, but on the not liking burger side. It could go all the way to absolutely no one liking burgers. As long as I have one not liking, I need to step away from the black dot, not jump all the way to just the other extreme. We'll also say maybe some students don't like burgers. In some situations, people want to use the some word. Now, unfortunately, when I just casually speak, the word some can have slightly different meanings. So we have to be very clear that when we use some, it means the exact same as at least one. Okay. So moving forward, if you want to use some, then we have to make sure we understand what it means and we will have it mean at least one. So one or more. Okay. So the only real danger, not in the phrasing, in the understanding that I shouldn't jump to the other extreme because the opposite actually means everything else. Everything else. Okay. Any questions so far as I set up for the next question?
No, I'm good.
Now, I know there are questions and confusion. Statistically speaking, there are. So it is your responsibility to say something if that is the case. No one knows who you are. You're perfectly safe. You paid for this course. Take the opportunity and don't leave anything up to chance in terms of your understanding, but it is up to you. I can give you the opportunity, but I can't do much more. So now I see that some word in the number 3. So I now have to understand. Okay, that means at least one. Okay. Some people like math. So now what helps me a lot is to look at this sort of spectrum, this range of what is possible. And now I like to remind myself this is about people liking math. And what's possible? Absolutely no one likes math, to absolutely everyone likes math. Whether it's realistic or not, well, that's not the question here, right? What is possible? What's the number of people that could possibly like math? Now, the given statement is going to be true for some of these situations. In this case, some people like math, meaning at least one. So if I have one person liking math or more, then the given statement is true. Should I include this all? If it's the case, let me rephrase the question. If it's the case that absolutely everyone likes math, I go and survey, I find everyone likes math, is the given statement true? I kind of have to figure that out first, right?
Yes.
He says yes, that's one person among many. Does everyone agree with him? He sounded confident. That doesn't mean he's right.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Neither do I.
That is, do you agree though that we need to know what is covered by the given statement before we can make the negation, right? I need to know what is black so I can come up, so the rest can be pink, and then I phrase my negation. That's my approach here. That's my strategy. So
Well,
it is important to figure out all the black parts first, right? Now, is everyone happy with the middle stuff being black? Because it says some, right? Some people like math. Is everyone happy if I color this middle section
Sure.
black? Usually people are okay with that. Some people like math. Great. It could be a few people. It could be many people, right? In this range in the middle, that's where we are. But definitely, uh, if it's a mix of people liking math, then definitely the given statement is true. Some people like math. Great. Question is, I just want to make sure about this extreme all case. So, okay, let's suppose I'm going to ask a different question just to make it a little bit more intuitive. Let's suppose we're in a classroom and there are actual people in the classroom. Apparently that person has 3 legs, but whatever, I don't judge. We have a bunch of people in the classroom. And let's suppose it's Cancer Awareness Month and some people are wearing pink shirts. Okay. But on this day, absolutely everyone is wearing pink shirts. I look at my class, everyone has a pink shirt on. They're very committed, very supportive. There is no one out there. I see pink shirts everywhere. Okay, that's now what's happening. I step out of the classroom. I tell a friend, today, some people wore pink shirts. Is that true?
No.
Of course it's true. I see pink shirts. Some people wore pink shirts. Of course it's true. How can it not be true? You see pink shirts. I step outside. I tell my friend, some people wore pink shirts today. Definitely true. You see a pink shirt. Some people wore pink shirts.
I guess you
What?
could say that about every day, though.
No, I need to see a pink shirt to make that statement, right?
Oh, okay.
Some is not all, though.
No, that's what I'm trying to get to. Our understanding of some is not quite right. Is it true when I look, I see some pink shirts? Absolutely true. There's pink shirts. There's some pink shirts. Some people wear pink shirts. It just so happened in that scenario that everyone wears pink shirts. That doesn't change the validity of my statement. Some people still wore pink shirts. The some word is not trying to exclude the case that everyone wears pink shirts. When I look and I see pink shirts, the statement that some people wore pink shirts is completely true. In no way am I making a statement against all people. I saw some pink shirts. If it happens that absolutely everyone wears pink shirts, that doesn't change the validity of my statement at all. Some people still wore pink shirts. It just so happened that everyone was wearing pink shirts. It doesn't change the truth of my statement at all. Now it takes some time to think about to sort of think about this carefully and imagine yourself in a scenario or do something else other than the pink shirts. I can imagine that perhaps something that you can imagine that you go somewhere, I don't know where, uh, or you go to the grocery store, and let's suppose everything is on sale, everything is marked down. Then you text your friend, there's some stuff on sale, come and look. Is that true? Of course it's true. Some things are on sale. It just so happens, unlikely, but it could happen, that absolutely everything is on sale. It doesn't change the truth of your text that some things are on sale. Does that sound a little better? Try and imagine a scenario that sort of feels more intuitive for you. Do you like the texting one? Or are you still not happy? How do we feel? We feel nothing. Silence is how we feel. Okay.
It's making sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, yep,
and
yep.
it helps me personally. It helps me if I imagine something that I could actually see myself in a situation rather than a sort of hypothetical, detached, given statement that it's hard to imagine the practicality of it. So, when we say, am I still pink here? Yes. When we use the word some or read the word some in a logical setting, or on paper, to be honest, if someone isn't there to elaborate what they mean, what is meant by some is at least one, which means one or more, which has no upper limit. It goes all the way to the max. So all is covered as well. When I say some people like math, it could be the extreme situation, unrealistic as it might sound to you, that
Would the
absolutely everyone likes math. It's
would the
still true.
inverse? Sorry, would the inverse
I'm
fit?
not there yet.
Oh,
I'm still understanding the statement. If we jump ahead too fast, I'm going to lose people.
sorry.
Now, what you call inverse, we're going to call negation. I don't use the word inverse because that means something else in math. So that's not the word I'm going to use. But I think you mean negation. But before I can attempt my negation, which is what the question is asking me for, right? I can't even start confidently writing this down if I don't understand the given statement, right? That's foolish. That's a risky game. I don't want to do that. It's I see this with kids all the time. I mean, elementary school, all the time. They read a question, they're going for that answer, whether they understand the question completely or not. They are rushing to that answer full speed, and then they are shocked when they don't get the answer. Perhaps they're so surprised. How could it happen? I must just be stupid. Well, did you actually give yourself a fighting chance and make sure you understand the question? Probably not. Then it's just sort of what's the phrase? You're just stumbling around in the dark, hoping to find the light switch. You can get lucky, but you're not giving yourself a good chance. So before I can even bother writing the negation and answering this question, I better make very sure I understand the given statement perfectly, when it's true, when it's not true. Because once I do, and I maybe like to visualize it, I can then say, oh, well, the only thing that's not covered by the given statement is this little left extreme. And therefore I will say the negation is no one likes math. It's the only situation where the given statement will not be true, and therefore it's the only situation where the negation has to be true. That is the opposite. But all my work goes into understanding the statement that they give me and analyzing that. Then coming up with a negation is kind of just a formality. I've put in the work in understanding the situation first. So I have to take the right strategy, and it's a strategy that transcends this topic in problem solving of any kind. If I don't understand the problem completely, then going for the answer is a risky game I'm not interested in. So all my work goes into the black part, understanding the given statement. And there's some key words that I'll see repeat, and it'll get easier for that reason. How do we feel about that? Knowing that math is not really about feeling, so it doesn't really matter how I feel when I think about it. But I do want to understand what is happening. And it might take time. I've given 2 days on this, which spans a weekend for a good reason, because these things take time to really think critically about words I am reading, words I am using. And it's a skill that we don't actually develop because we don't really think it's that necessary. But when I get to any sort of technical subject, it doesn't have to be math, any sort of science, perhaps more, then how I read, what I read, how I say things, it has to be thought about critically to mean exactly what it should mean. So this is really an exercise in that. We have one more. Everyone in class has a calculator. Let me just make space here. Okay. I think I'm still pink here. 4. So now it's about having a calculator. And again, it could range from no one to everyone. I have to first evaluate, when is this given statement true? Everyone in class has a calculator. Where would you say it's true? Where on this range is this?
Somewhere in the middle.
Okay, so let's, yes, I'm still in black here. Let's suppose it's none. Let's go with this one first, the left extreme. Now, let's suppose I go and survey people. I'm going to have to survey everyone, right? Let's suppose I could do that, hypothetically. I survey all people. Or is it in class? I can't remember. Oh, no, it's only in the class. Some classroom, I survey everyone. Okay. I find no one has a calculator. It's like my calculus class. They never bring their calculators. Is the given statement true?
No.
No, of course not. The reality is no one has a calculator, and the given statement says everyone does. Okay, that's not true at all. Okay, so let's backtrack that. The right extreme is the given. So I survey my class. Turns out absolutely everyone has a calculator. Is the given statement true? No, that was a yes/no question. Silence wasn't one of the options. I'll say it.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, it's true. Okay. So I'm sort of working my way through this. Okay, let me just backtrack. That open circle is annoying me. Let's just make it a nice solid dot. So let's suppose I'm here at a 50-50 situation. I survey my class. Half of them have calculators, half of them don't. Someone makes the statement, everyone in class has a calculator. True or false? Again, it was true or false, not silence. It's a 2-option question.
False.
False, yes. false. So, but I mean, I have to get to this point myself eventually, right? I have to evaluate where in this range of having calculators is the given statement true. And in this case, it's only true at the right extreme of all and nowhere else. But I have to be sure of that. So now I have to phrase, well, now I have to see, okay, well, the negation means everything else. So everything, the middle as well as the left, has to be covered by how I phrase the negation. By cover, I mean being true. So as long as I just step away from everyone, my choice for the ideal way to phrase the negation is at least one person, of course, in class, does not have a calculator. That will allow me to get away from this right extreme. Someone doesn't have a calculator. You can also say that. But people struggle with the sum concept a little bit. Someone does not have a calculator. Those are all correct. I just want to get away from this black dot. I could be just beside it, and only one person doesn't have a calculator. The black statement is not true, the pink one is. Or I could have a 50-50 mix. Yep, some people don't have calculators. There's at least one person that doesn't have a calculator. Negation is true when the given statement is not. Or I can go to the other extreme, that is likely, perhaps, definitely possible, where absolutely no one has a calculator. I know the given statement is not true. So that situation better be captured by my negation. At least one person doesn't have a calculator. There's no upper bound on people not having a calculator. So everyone might not have a calculator, meaning no one has a calculator. And I do cover this left extreme. So if you don't like the sum word, rephrase it as an at least one, if that sounds better. It certainly does to me. I've gotten used to the sum. Sum is a little bit of a vague word with slightly unclear meaning in terms of using it in language, whereas at least one is a little bit more precise. And we had to make the decision. If we're going to use sum, we need to know exactly what it means or never use it. So you can choose to remember the association with at least one or simply never use it. All right. So this starts our thinking of really critically looking at statements that I read, statements that I make, but without that critical thinking aspect, I'm really just stumbling along, and logical reasoning is not going to be, and puzzle solving and problem solving. It's always going to be very mysterious. It needs to be built on a foundation of saying what I mean and clearly understanding what I read. And this negation is just a way to practice that. We do have more that we will continue with on Monday, our next day. I'm pretty sure it's Friday, right? Pretty sure. Uh, there's more to do. It'll get faster because you'll see the same concepts repeat. But if you want to practice a problem after you have mastered everything we've said today, problem 2.1 is the same kind of question. All right. Any thoughts on this you would like to share at this stage? There was a question. Let me just check the YouTube chat. It says, so could you say no one has a calculator? That goes back to the very first example we did, right? Where, whoops, that was not this one. Second, number two, that it was very similar to this, that if I think about the opposite, that doesn't mean jumping to the other extreme of none. I miss all the in-between stuff. So I have to phrase my negation so it catches all the middle pink stuff. It's the same situation. So I can't say my negation is no one has a calculator, then I miss the pink stuff. The pink stuff in the middle is not covered by the given statement, which means my negation has to be phrased in such a way that it is true when the mix occurs. So that's the catch. That's the danger here. To think about opposite as the other extreme, but actually opposite means everything else. And depending on the situation, it could be more than just the other left extreme. All right. Think about it, sleep on it. You have a whole weekend. We still have a fairly slow start. Your task is to just understand this. It's not a big task, but we are going to build on this carefully saying things exactly the way we want, carefully reading something, or when I say something, really evaluating what I'm saying for what it is. I don't mean what I'm saying in solving puzzles, it means one thing. I can't ever say something that has multiple meanings or is vague. Everything I say in an argument to solve a puzzle has to be precise, and I have to be aware of it within myself. And if I were to write it out or explain it to someone else, all of those things have to be very precise and clear. So I have to develop that awareness first. All right, we will pick up this discussion next time. Let me know if you have any questions. Other than that, enjoy the weekend.
Thank you.